10 May 1864, 9:30 a.m. The enemy hold our front in very strong force and evince a strong determination to interpose between us and Richmond to the last. I shall take no backward steps, but may be compelled to send back to Belle Plaine for further supplies. Please have supplies of forage and provisions sent there at once, and 50 rounds of ammunition infantry for 100,000 men. Send General Benham with the necessary bridge train for the Rappahannock River. We can maintain ourselves at least, and in the end, beat Lee's army. I believe, with present position of the armies, 10,000 men can be spared from the defenses of Washington, besides the troops that have reached there since Burnside's departure. Some may also be brought from Wallace's department. We want no more wagons nor artillery. U.S. Grant.
11 May 1864, 7 a.m. On Wright's front, something better was done. A large part of the ground before that general is an impracticable morass, and the only good approach is on his extreme left. There he massed 12 regiments as storming party under Colonel Upton, supported by 6 regiments of the 6th Corps, pressing forward with irresistible force, creeping on hands and knees, which in some places covered enemy. Upton not only broke his lines, but captured the 3 regiments of which Dole's brigade, far from Mule's corps, is now composed, namely 4th, 20th, and 44th Georgia, with Colonel Peebles of the 44th in command of the brigade. Rank and file of this brigade numbered 913 with 37 officers. Upton was afterwards struck in the right flank by enemy and forced to withdraw part of his command, but the remainder held ground until after dark and then came off in perfect order. He captured 3 cannon also, but these he was unable to save. His loss in killed and wounded was about 1,000. Farther to the left were Mott's division, held ground between Wright and Burnside. We were disgraced by a retreat of that division without loss and apparently without any considerable force to oppose them. They advanced into the woods with orders to attack, but came out again at once like cowards. This is the old division of Sickles and Hooker, and is composed of the troops in the army, with exception perhaps of Milroy's old brigade, which fought and fled under Seymour at Old Wilderness.
C.A. Dana, Assistant Secretary of War. 12 May 1864, 8 a.m. The battle was renewed at 4:30 this morning. During the night, Hancock marched from his previous position on our right and occupied the ground between Wright and Burnside. At daylight, he attacked with his accustomed impetuosity, forcing the first and then the second line of the enemy's works, capturing the whole of Edward Johnson's division and part of Early's. Together with Major General Johnson, Brigadier General Johnston, General Stewart, and from 30 to 40 cannon. The number of prisoners is not known, but it is to be counted by thousands. Burnside on the extreme left opened at the same time with Hancock and advanced with comparatively little opposition. His right has formed a junction with Hancock, and his left is now actively engaged. Wright's troops attacked at about 7:15 and are now at work. Warren is demonstrating to hold the enemy in front of him in his lines. The rebel works at that point are exceedingly strong.
12th May 1864, 6:30 p.m. The 8th day of battle closes, leaving between 3,000 and 4,000 prisoners in our hands for the day's work, including 2 general officers and over 30 pieces of artillery. The enemy are obstinate and seem to have found the last ditch. We have lost no organization, not even that of a company. Whole, we have destroyed and captured 1 division, Johnson's, 1 brigade, Dole's, and 1 regiment entire of the enemy. U.S. Grant. Spotsylvania Battlefield, 12th May, 1864, 7 p.m. The battle has raged without cessation throughout the day. Wright and Hancock have bore the brunt of it. Burnside has made several attacks in which Potter's division especially has been brought to the work with much determination. Indeed, Burnside's troops generally have bore themselves like wood soldiers. I should here mention that only his white troops have been engaged, the colored division having been kept in the rear to guard the trains. Warren alone has gained nothing. His attacks were made in the forenoon with so much delay that both Grant and Meade were greatly dissatisfied. but when they were made, they were unsuccessful, though attended with considerable loss. The rebel works in his front were very strong, and finally, at about 1 o'clock, the chief portion of his troops were withdrawn from his lines and brought to the support of Wright. It was then intended to attempt a grand assault with a very powerful column under Wright at around 5 p.m. But when the men were brought up, they were so tired from the long day's work that General Wright advised General Meade to postpone the attempt, and accordingly, the obstinate battle was allowed to pause here. The results of the day are that we have crowded the enemy out of some of his most important positions, have weakened him by heavy losses in killed and wounded, have captured 3,200 prisoners, many flags, and a number of cannon, variously reported at from 33 to 42, only part of them having yet been brought from the lines where they were captured. Our troops rest tonight upon the ground which they have victoriously fought for. Our losses of today I cannot estimate. Warren reckons the number of his killed and wounded at 2,000. I hear of no prominent officer who has fallen. Generals Wright and Birney are slightly wounded, each still remaining at his post. General Webb is hurt more severely, think not dangerously. The report that we had captured 3 generals is incorrect. We have only Major General Johnson and Brigadier General Stewart among our prisoners, are men from all the corps of Lee's army, though the great portion of them are from Mule's, to which Johnston's division belong. C.A. Dana. 16 May 1864, 8 a.m. We've had 5 days, almost constant rain, without any prospect yet of its clearing up. The roads have now become so impassable that ambulances with wounded can no longer run between here and Fredericksburg. All offensive operations necessarily cease until we can have 24 hours of dry weather. The Army is in its best of spirits and feel greatest confidence in ultimate success. The promptness with which you have forwarded reinforcements will contribute greatly to diminishing our mortality list and in assuring a complete victory. You can assure the President and Secretary of War that the elements alone have suspended hostilities and that it is in no manner due to weakness or exhaustion on our part. U.S. Grant. 19 May 1864, 1 p.m. I shall make a flank movement early in the morning and try to reach Bowling Green and Milford Station. If successful, Port Royal would be more convenient as a depot than Fredericksburg. I wish you would stir up the Navy and see if they cannot reach there. U.S. Grant. Belle Plaine, 20th May 1864, 8 p.m. A newspaper correspondent of my acquaintance who left the front at 4 p.m. today describes the fight of last evening as a very brilliant affair. It was especially valuable because the new heavy artillery troops were engaged in it and bore themselves with the gallantry of veterans. We took about 700 prisoners. Our losses pretty severe, quite 1,000 killed and wounded, but the enemy, who came out of their entrenchments for the attack, was much more severely punished. C.A. Dana. Guinea Station, Virginia, 21st May, 1864, 5:30 p.m. So far, the new movement of the Army has been accomplished without interruption. Hancock has not yet been heard from since his arrival at Milford, where he was ordered to halt, but there is no reason to doubt that he has got there and has seized the bridge. Warren is here across the Mattapony. A body of cavalry opposed passage of the river, but withdrew after a short skirmish. Burnside and Wright were to be at Thornburg tonight, unless the enemy should make too powerful resistance to their advance in that direction, in which case they were to march in this direction across the Nye at Ford a mile or more above here. As no sounds of fighting have been heard from that direction, it is probable that they have made good their crossing at Thornburg. Trains are assembled at Vilboro, about 3.5 miles from here. Hancock yesterday morning shot one of his stragglers, a private. None of the others have yet been tried. C.A. Dana. Guinea Station, 22nd May, 1864, 8:30 a.m. We now occupy Milford Station and south of the Mattapony on that line. I will now transfer our depot to Port Royal at once. Please direct the transfer of everything there. U.S. Grant.